Atten-Hut!
Hey, welcome to Half the Battle, and welcome, my friends, to main character May.
And for this one, we're taking a look at Sergeant Slaughter.
In the first part, we'll be talking about the action figures.
So, meet Sergeant Slaughter. This figure was released in 1986 with all original body parts and one original chin. Man, you could beat somebody to death with that jawbone. This figure has a lot of nice detailing on it, especially in paint applications. From the bigger stuff like the USA letters in 3 colors on his shirt and the white belt, to the smallest stuff like the gold on the hat and belt buckle, and not forgetting the very intricate sergeant insignia on his boots.
You can tell a lot of work went into this figure.
This figure is also unique in that he's got the G.I.Joe logo on his pants. The first figure to have this, though later others would have these too. I'm guessing they did this to make sure kids understood this was a G.I. Joe figure.
Since there could be some confusion, as this character is based on a real person.
Looking at the whole figure, this guy is buff. Like, probably the buffest figure that was in the line so far at the time, except for maybe Roadblock. And overall, it's a good looking figure. One that gets the image of a drill instructor over well. He only came with one accessory, a baton, which feels appropriate enough. Of course, this wasn't the only figure Sergeant Slaughter got.
Hell, it wasn't even the only figure he got in 1986. I guess I should explain.
You see, this first version was produced in 1985, but wasn't sold until early 86. And even then, it was never available in stores. Instead, it was a mail-in offer directly from Hasbro.
But since they spent good money on a real person to be a Joe, they weren't just gonna leave it at that.
So meet Sergeant Slaughter version 2. This figure was released in 1986, and even though it seems that way, it's not just a repaint of the first one, so it has some original body parts. Yeah, for some reason the waist and legs are completely new molds. And I think that sucks a little, since the original boots look much nicer and were more detailed.
Hell, version 2 is overall less detailed.
Well, with the exception of having a camo pattern on his pants. The biggest example of this lack of detailing is that the first figure is wearing gloves, while the second one, who has the same molds for his hands, doesn't. Oh well, at least there's still that magnificent chin. And it's not like this is a bad figure, not by any means. It looks pretty good. In fact, I wouldn't be complaining except for the fact that it had to follow the superior first version. This figure also came with a baton.
2 years later, Sergeant Slaughter would get another figure.
So meet Sergeant Slaughter version 3. This figure was released in 1988 with all original body parts, and it's quite a departure from his previous look. In fact, apart from the head, which still has his signature glasses, and thank God, that chin, the figure looks nothing like the previous ones.
And it's a pretty neat reinvention of the character.
Tan pants, brown vest with some nice detailing like the silver ammo bandolier, the red padding, and the gloves are back. Though there are some missteps. The knife handle on his chest could have been painted. But worse, it looks like the small part of his torso just below the head was meant to be bare skin, but they didn't paint it. They just kept the brown color of the mold. I mean, it's possible he's wearing a t-shirt in the exact color of his vest.
But somehow I find that unlikely.
Overall though, it's a nice looking figure with a good fresh take on the character. Also, for the first time, he came with a removable hat. No baton though.
This brings us to the last figure the character got in the original line.
So meet Sergeant Slaughter version 4. This figure was released in 1989 with no original body parts. And dear Lord!
Sarge, what have they done to you?
Yeah, this is Slaughter's Marauder Sergeant Slaughter, try saying that 5 times fast, where they went for an, interesting color scheme, shall we say? It's the glasses that get me with this one. Those freaking blue glasses!
I know blue sunglasses exist, but in the military?
Now, this figure uses the entire mold from the first version, boots included, but with less detail. The worst example of this are the hands. Not only are the gloves gone again, but they didn't paint his freaking wristbands. So they're flesh-colored and look like he's got weird growths on his wrists.
They could have painted them blue.
Judging from the shirt, it's not like they didn't have enough of the stuff laying around, clearly. But no, apparently that wasn't in the budget. even though there was money enough for a weird brown splotch on the top of his hat. Yes, that was obviously an essential paint application, unlike the wristbands.
Seriously, what were they thinking?
As you may have surmised by now, I'm not a huge fan of the color scheme. Though I will freely admit this figure does have plenty of fans, so if this happens to be your favorite version, hey, more power to you. Oh, and this figure came with a baton again. You may have noticed that I've been showing you, for lack of a better word, stock footage of said batons.
That's because these things are very easy to lose, so I don't have one. Okay, technically that's a lie. I do have one, but it's safely sealed still in its box, and I'm not gonna take it out just for this show.
And the one figure that didn't come with one, well, instead, he had a very easy to lose hat.
It's like they did this on purpose.
Yeah, the most frustrating thing about any Sergeant Slaughter figure might just be trying to find the complete one. And those were the 4 figures the Sarge got in the original line. The only modern figures he got were a Collectors Club exclusive and 2 Comic-Con exclusives. I can't really talk about them because I don't have them and they're expensive as hell. Out of the 4 from the original line, the first is still the best, with the second and third being jointly in second place. Still good, but not as awesome as the OG. For me, the Slaughter's Marauders version is the worst. So, that does it for the figures.
Now, you may have noticed that I've left a few things out here.
Like the fact that 2 of these were vehicle drivers, so where's the vehicle talk? And that I've barely mentioned the fact that this character was based on a real-life person.
Well, you gotta remember, this is main character May, so we'll be delving into that as well as other stuff the entire month, so stay tuned! Well, I'll see you next time, everybody, and hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing? Atten-Hut!
Coming into view on his way to San Jose, California.